Morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on The Real Story. I'm Ben Goldman in for Jen and Al this week. We start this Sunday with some sad news. Connecticut mourning the loss this week of Oz Griebel. Griebel was a two-time candidate for governor here in the state, but he was really so much more than that. A leader in business, he worked tirelessly with the Metro Hartford Alliance to grow economic activity in the region to benefit not only Hartford, but the surrounding area as well. Tragically, he was hit by a car while he was going out for a jog in Pennsylvania. His family writing that they're very appreciative of the support and that they've received since this accident. Information on services will be shared. His former running mate, Monty Frank, releasing a joint statement with the SAM Group, writing in part, quote, Oz was and always will be the vision of courage, a man of passion and integrity, and the epitome of a leader. He represented the best and the brightest. Oz's legacy will endure in all of us as we carry forward his mission to improve our democracy and the lives of all people. And joining me now this morning is someone who knew Oz personally and professionally. That would be Andy Bissett, Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer of Travelers. Andy, good morning. Thanks for being here.
Ben, good morning. How are you doing?
All is okay. I want to start talking about your friendship personally and professionally with Oz. Your lives intertwined in quite a few different ways.
Yeah, you know, Oz was a great friend, and we knew each other for the better part of 20 years. And it went all the way back to 2001 when Oz first came in as to head the Metro Hartford Alliance. And back in those days, the corporations in and around Hartford had gotten sick and tired of paying duplicate overhead expenses for the Chamber of Commerce and what was called back then the Metro Hartford Growth Council. And so we worked diligently to put those together through 2000 and 2001 formed the Metro Hartford Alliance as we know it today. And we hired Oz to come in and be the CEO of the Metro Hartford Alliance. And that's when I first met Oz. And, you know, he had been a bank executive in this area for 6 or 7 years. And I had met him a few times there. But, you know, the things that we did in the Metro Hartford Alliance in the early days had such an impact on the community. And I became chairman, as I remember, in 2005, 2006. And so Oz and I worked closely together in those years. And I really started to see Oz as the person he is and was. And he was a special guy. I mean, I love him to death. And I just think the world of him, and I always will. And, you know, in 2005, 2006, we started something called HYPE, which is the Hartford Young Professionals and Entrepreneurs Association. And it's a great organization. You know, back in those days, I think we had 50 members, and we were hoping to get to 200. And now these days, it's up over 4,000. And so that's the kind of vision that Oz had. He knew that young professionals would be an important part of growing our region and growing the businesses in the state of Connecticut. And he charged ahead, and we worked together to get that done. And then he also was the brainchild behind the Insurance and Financial Services Cluster, which to this day exists and is an important part of bringing the insurance companies together and keeping all the insurance jobs here and growing insurance jobs in this region. So that gives you a little insight as to Oz in his energy, his caring. I never saw a bigger champion and cheerleader for this region as Oz Griebel. Oz is and always will be somebody that I highly respect and cared for, and he did so many good things to grow this area.
You know, Andy, I think one of the saddest parts about this entire story is the fact that Oz was 71 years old and he was out going for a jog. I just saw him a few weeks before his death. I mean, he had so much life left in him. You know, you knew him personally. Just on a last note here, if folks didn't have the chance to get to be in his presence and experience who he was, how would you describe him personally? What type of guy was Oz?
Oz had the heart of an angel. He was a terrific man, and he cared about people. He cared about Hartford, about the greater Hartford region, about the state of Connecticut, And you can't say more to somebody about somebody than they cared. He cared. He was energetic. You're right. He was 71, but he sent me an email the Sunday before the accident on that Tuesday. And he said, "Hey, Andy, I have some ideas. I need your help on this, this, and this. And I also, let's get together for lunch and we can social distance." And I said, "Yeah, okay, we'll figure this out." And that was Oz. Oz always had ideas. He was always working hard. He had the energy of a 30-year-old. And it's not surprising that he was going out for a run because that was Oz. And Oz's sports background in baseball and around Dartmouth, but also Worcester Academy, where he taught for 4 years, is legendary. And his relationship with D. Rowe is legendary. And the list goes on and on for the great athletes that came out of Worcester Academy. But that was Oz. Oz was a great person, great human being, worked hard, cared a lot about our region, our area. And I think the biggest tribute we can pay to Oz is to keep that energy going and push and continue to grow the state, grow the region, grow Hartford, and do good things for all the folks and the people that live in all those areas.
Hartford and Connecticut better off because of them, no doubt. Andy, while we got you,
Yeah.
I want to talk about the Travelers Championship, one of the biggest projects that you spearhead each and every year, the biggest sporting event here in the state of Connecticut. Looked a little bit different this year. Kind of give me a summary, a wrap-up. How did it go in the middle of this pandemic?
Ben, it was one of those experiences where Nathan and I worked so hard because we had to keep 5 different scenarios of the tournament working and planning until the end of April, when the PGA Tour finally told us that it would be a no-fan event. So no fans would be on site. Nobody would be on site except for the players and the necessary people to run the tournament. And I have to tell you, it was so weird. I missed the fans so much. I mean, I was so sad in so many ways, but it ended up being terrific. We had 9 of the top 10 players in the world, 18 of the top 20, 30 of the top 50. And Nathan and I laughed and had a shirt made up for saying the Travelers Championship, the World Golf Championship, which is one of the top events on the PGA Tour. And so that's what we aspire to be. But we had terrific success. We have a great champion in Dustin Johnson. And our charitable numbers came in over 1.6 million. 1.6 million. And we didn't sell one ticket. We didn't sell one hamburger. We didn't sell one shirt. We sold nothing. But the support from our corporate sponsors was second to none. They were terrific. They took a portion of or all of their sponsorship dollars and gave them to the tournament as a charitable contribution. And that's what allowed us to be able to give, in part, over 1.6 million to really important charities in the greater Hartford region.
And the player field, like we always talk about, was incredible. Hopefully that continues on next year, hopefully when things are back to normal. Part of your title, Andy, Chief Administrative Officer over at Travelers. The Travelers Tower is like a ghost town right now, talking about the corporation as a larger scale. How are you guys faring during this pandemic, working from home, re-entry? Where do things stand?
The Travelers, it has always been a rather virtual company because of the nature of our business. We've got to be able to work and support our insureds in the time of their greatest needs, which is disasters, catastrophes, hurricanes, tornadoes, you name it. So we've always been prepared to do this. And over the last decade, we've done a lot of things to build our systems and everything even more strongly. And so we've got 30,000 employees working from home extremely successfully. And the company is doing well. The company is working hard. We've got essential workers, probably 1,500, a couple of thousand nationwide, some in Hartford. So the halls of the tower are not empty completely. And we've gone to great lengths to make sure that our food workers, who are contract workers, stay employed. We continue to pay them, our housekeepers. And so we care about human beings and we care about the people who are a part of our family. And so, you know what, I think we're all waiting for the vaccines to come out, and that'll determine, I think, a lot of the future. But we'll have a few people start to come back in after Labor Day. But I suspect it'll be further out in the year and into early 2021 as we see more people come back into the workplace.
Living with this pandemic in a certain way. Last point here, Andy.
Yeah.
We could talk for hours with all the different boards and committees that you're on, but I want to talk specifically about UConn. You're a board of trustee up on the Storrs campus. Talking about reopening, reentry, bringing students, staff, faculty, sports back. Other than the things that have been announced, where do things stand right now up on campus? How's the attitude as far as the board of trustees go, and what can we expect for the fall semester, maybe even beyond that?
Yeah, and Ben, you were there and you've seen this all live, but I think it's terrific. The students and the energy to come back into the dorms, get back on campus, get back into class is terrific. Now, I think there'll be a combination of in class and still virtual, and there's still going to be a virtual nature to it, but there's so much excitement. I think the students are so excited to come back in onto campus, but we've got to somehow restrict that too, and you've read about that, to make sure that it's safe, because that's the most important piece of everything we do, actually around the Travelers Championship or at Travelers companies or at UConn. We've got to make sure it's a safe environment, and there'll be testing protocols and such. And with sports, we've already announced that our fall schedule now in the Big East will be within conference only, and football still being determined or worked on. But I think giving the athletes a chance to compete, even though it may be on a little bit more restricted basis, is critically important. I think giving the students an opportunity to come back is critically important. And the board of trustees, I am telling you, I chair the finance committee, and we focus on the dollars, but I'm telling you, the entire board of trustees is so focused. We're all engaged in making sure that this is right and that it's going to be a great experience, but also a safe experience. And I couldn't be more proud of all of my fellow trustees and what we're accomplishing in a pandemic, and what the administration with Tom Katsoulias and his entire leadership team and the professors, everybody is doing their best to try to make sure it's safe, but also give the students a chance to come back onto campus and start to learn and study some more as to where we left off after the last semester.
Lots of big decisions to make leading up Travelers and all of those reentry decisions, and UConn with students, staff, and faculty. Andy, before we go, whenever we're out socially or doing an interview, I think not enough people get to understand that you're an Olympic athlete. I always like to mention that whenever I'm talking to you. So I think that if you have that strength, you can make it through this pandemic. You agree?
I think so. That was a while ago, but it's people like you, Ben, that give me the energy to keep going. And we enjoy so many of the same things, but it's so important, I think, in these times of this pandemic. I think that the importance of the Travelers Championship is the pride that it brings. I mean, it makes us all feel good, and that was one of the most important things about making sure that we had a tournament this year that we would have a great tournament. Everybody could be very proud to be a part of what's in Connecticut. Governor Lamont was a terrific partner, and he was so helpful. And I think the job he's done leading the whole COVID-19 effort has been phenomenal. But the support we get to run the tournament so that we can give pride to every person in Connecticut is so important. And that's what makes Nathan and I proud of all the work that our entire team, our teams collectively do to pull it off. So pride's an important part. And, you're proud of what we do, and we're proud of it, and we're just happy. We're going to do it again in 21. And I issued a funny challenge just before the tournament. And I said, next year, I want to break all records. I want 500,000 people to come out to the Travelers Championship. And poor Nathan was shaking because, normally we have a couple, 200,000 to 250,000. And so I want everybody to come out and celebrate in 21, as long as it's safe, to come out and enjoy the Travelers Championship and be a part of what happened in 2020, but also what's going to happen in 2021.
They'll be ready to do it. Andy Bissett, thank you so much for your insight into Oz Griebel and for so many things going on here in the state. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you for your leadership and all that you do to make this all possible.
You betcha, Andy. Thanks. All right. Up next here on The Real Story this morning, back to school during a pandemic. What's the latest in Connecticut? Distance learning, reopening. We're covering it all. Stay with us.